Good morning. How are you today? Today, I'm going to be talking about a myth that I hear many, many, many times, and you hear on the news a lot. That myth has to do with people that don't have very much income can't save. And you have to be making a bunch of money in order to save. And therefore, that's why people are not able to have a reasonable retirement. I read a study that was done by JP Morgan that just blew that myth out of the water. What they did is they did an analysis and they took people with the same incomes. It didn't matter where they were from. They could be from New York, from San Francisco, like the highest cost of living places in the world, right? In the United States, I should say. And they compared people from apples to apples with the same income. And they found that there was just a few differences that made the difference between somebody who doesn't save very much and somebody who saves more. So most of the time people think savings is boring, but to me savings is exciting. But I want to talk a little bit about, I want to ask you first a question. What do you consider to be a high percentage of your income to be savings? Just type it in. You can type it right here. You see where it says here. What is a low, medium, or high savings rate? I'd like to see what your view of that is, and I'll at the end I will mention that what that number really is. Now, getting back, they took people and they said, okay, let's take people who all have $50,000 of income, 40,000. See, break them down into low savings, and then look at all of their different. And this is that it is a myth that if you have a lower income that you can't save. So I'm going to actually, let's see here. This is the same thing last night. Yeah, it's so true. Necessary to have that. If you have $50,000 in income of house, you don't go to the max, because guess what? They're going to make the max. The rules for the maximum house you can buy is going to be on the top end that you can barely make work. And too many people do that, and then they wind up getting themselves into debt. Instead, automatic savings, automatic investment, and you can start at any age. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter like, oh, well, that was, I'm older now, I can't do that. No, you can do that right now. And so that's the key. Even if it's a small dollar amount. Now, there's a concept. It's really an ancient concept called tzedakah, which is kind of a Hebrew word that means to give a little bit of, to basically give charity. It's the same concept, but you're kind of giving charity to yourself, if you will. And there's even, the thing where you put just a coin every day. That's how you have to kind of break it down to is into a day. Because if you say, just using lower numbers, just say if I'm only going to save $150 a month, that sounds more daunting than I'm going to save $5 a day. You just get yourself into this mindset. So, and then that money starts compounding, and that's the big difference. So it is a myth. Now, what I'd like to know is what people think is, what percentage of your income do you think is low savings versus high savings? Because I think people are kind of have a misjudgment about that. And I'll go ahead and just tell you what it is. So what they found is, if you break it down, is if you're saving under 2% of your salary or your income, that's considered low. If you're saving up to 5%, if you're going up to like 9%, anything over 9%, 9 plus, that's high. And most people, and we run financial plans all the time, most people, doesn't matter your age, they need to be saving more like 10, 15. And as you get older, it might even be higher if you haven't saved, depending on what you've done throughout your life. But the news flash on this is that the government is not going to bail you out. Social Security benefits are really not making it for most people. And unless you make some really dramatic changes, most people are going to need to supplement the Social Security. So it is a myth. Just remember, housing first. You got to take care of your transportation. Don't go crazy on transportation expenses. Travel, don't go nuts on travel. Do automatic savings. Those things alone will get 90% of the people to a secure financial position when they retire. Now, that's the first topic I had for you today. But I want to just mention a couple things I'm seeing in the news too. This is crazy. There's these IPOs, initial public offerings, that are going out there and that are just absolutely nuts, and people have been buying them like crazy. They're called SPACs. And what they are is they're listed companies, so they're publicly traded companies, and they're shell companies. Shell companies means there's nothing in it. It's just a corporation that goes out and raises money in the market from people, with the promise that they're going to do something. And what they've been promising is that they're going to buy private companies, companies that are not publicly traded, and then they're going to uh, help them basically become public by averting that process of because it's very expensive to go public. So there's like big endorsers, celebrities endorsing them, etc. But it's based on a promise, and now there's a bunch of lawsuits because there's nothing underneath the hood, right? You're just buying on the hope that something is going to be there, and there's no disclosure as to what company is going to be bought. So this is another one of those crazy things that's happening on Wall Street, and it's a sign. It's a sign that things are a little frothy out there right now. The Dallas Fed chair came out, and he basically said, "Listen, I think we're going to have to raise rates, and I think we're going to." He didn't really want to put a time frame on it, but he kind of said 2022, but raising the rates seems to be in the picture now. They're talking about a rate hike, and then he also said it should start with bond purchases. And what that means for the average investor is that basically they're probably going to stop buying these bonds up because they've been suppressing rates down in the market by buying them up like crazy. So what they're doing is they're printing money in the treasury, they're spending it, and then the Fed is buying it back. That's been the cycle. That's what people say, well, how can they do this? Where do they get all this money? Well, that's how they do it. They print it, then they spend it and give it to people, various spending, and then the Federal Reserve goes out and buys it. And so that what they're saying is we're going to like slow that down. And the market is kind of bracing for that right now. So we're seeing some interesting things going on there with rates. So we've got a close eye on that. The other crazy thing that's going on is the Chinese government and the US government are starting to crack down on Chinese companies, right? So basically, let me just kind of explain that. So on the US side, we're putting more restrictions on Chinese companies that are raising money here in the United States. And we're basically what we're doing is we're saying you guys need to disclose if you're part of the Communist China Party and what your relationships are if you're going to raise money with United States investors, which makes total sense to us. We need to know what those relationships are. We should be fully informed about what we're investing in. So that a lot of people are thinking companies are going to be delisted, meaning no longer available. So these Chinese stocks are really starting to go down. And what's happening in China is a kind of a different thing. They're basically coming out and saying, look, a lot of people are buying things with digital currencies, non-bank currencies, and they're cramping down on that. And that is hurting some of the companies like Tencent, which is one company we own that got hit on that. So I don't know if you've been following me, I've been saying the governments can cramp down on Bitcoin-ish type things. I don't see why this is not going to happen across other countries. But anyway, very interesting stuff. So if you're saving now, ask yourself, am I a high saver? Am I a medium saver? Or am I a low saver? And if I'm a low saver or medium and I need to be higher, what can I do in those basic areas with the housing, with my cars, with my travel? And am I systematically every month or every week saving? All right, that's all for now. Have a great day.